Jace had heard the stories, old stories, strange stories. Stories about alien ruins buried deep on forgotten moons. But he never believed them. Not really. He was just an engineer. A scavenger looking for scrap and lost tech. That's all, when he landed on the cold, rocky surface of the moon Zekros 9. The wind screamed like something was alive. His ship's sensors had picked up strange signals from underground, so he followed them. What he found was more than he ever expected. A wide metal door, half buried in dust and stone. It looked ancient. Older than anything he had ever seen. He touched it, and it hissed open like it had been waiting. Inside was silence, thick and heavy. The air smelled like metal and something old. Like time itself had stopped inside. He walked in slowly, flashlight in hand. The walls were covered in alien writing, glowing faint blue. And in the center of the room stood a broken statue. At its feet lay the armor. It wasn't rusted, it wasn't damaged, it looked almost alive. Black and silver, shining in the dark. It had strange patterns all over it, like it had veins. It didn't belong there. It didn't belong anywhere. You shouldn't be here. A voice said behind him. Jace turned fast. Hand on his belt where his tool blade was kept. It was a girl, maybe his age, with pale skin and glowing green eyes. Her clothes were stitched from different alien fabrics. Her voice was calm, but her eyes were afraid. "Who are you?" Jace asked. "Lyra," she said, stepping forward. "I live on this moon, not by choice." "What do you mean?" "I'm part of the Watchers," she said. "We guard old things, dangerous things." She looked past him to the armor. "That is one of them." Jace looked back at the armor. "It's just a suit," he said. "Might be worth something." "No," Lyra said sharply. "It's cursed." He laughed, just a little. "There's no such thing as curses." Lyra moved closer, her voice lowering. "You don't understand. That armor was made by the Ashari, a race that no longer exists. They were powerful, too powerful. They made things that were not meant to live. That armor chooses its host. And once it bonds, it doesn't let go." Jay shook his head. "Stories, just stories." He muttered, but still, he hesitated. The armor looked strange, yes, but beautiful too. It seemed to call him, a soft whisper in his head, like it wanted him to wear it. Lyra stepped in front of him, blocking his path. "I warned you." She said, "Please don't touch it." He looked into her eyes, then at the armor. Then he stepped around her. "I'll just look," he said. She grabbed his arm, but he pulled free, and then he reached out. The moment his fingers touched the armor, it moved, not like metal, but like skin. It flowed over his hand, climbed up his arm, fast like a snake. Jace screamed and tried to shake it off. But it was too late. The armor spread across his body, wrapping around his chest, his legs, his neck. He fell to the floor, shaking. His body burned like fire was inside him. Blue lights flickered all over the armor's surface, and his eyes glowed the same color. Lyra dropped to her knees beside him. "No, no, no," she whispered. "You weren't supposed to touch it." Jace gasped. "It hurts," he groaned. "Make it stop." "I can't," she said, voice trembling. "No one can." Suddenly the armor stopped moving. Jace sat up slowly, breathing hard. The armor had fused to his skin like it had grown into him. He touched his chest, and the metal pulsed under his hand. It felt alive. Lyra looked at him with fear and sadness. "You've awakened it," she said. "And now, it's too late to turn back." Outside the ruin, thunder cracked in the sky. The wind roared louder. Something far away had opened its eyes. Something that had been sleeping. Something that had been waiting, and now it knew Jace's name. The air outside was no longer still. Storms did not exist on Zekros 9, yet dark clouds spun above the ruin. Jace stumbled outside, the alien armor now part of him. Each step he took made the metal shift, like it was learning how to move with him. Lyra followed behind, silent and afraid. She had seen this once before, long ago, and it ended with death. Jace tried to breathe normally, but every breath felt Deeper, sharper. He could hear everything. Distant rocks sliding down hills, wind brushing over dust, even Lyra's quiet heartbeat. He looked at his hand, still covered in smooth black armor. It pulsed with a blue light, slow and steady, like it had its own heart. Is this thing inside me now? Jace asked, his voice shaking. Lyra nodded slowly. It doesn't come off, she said. It becomes you. Jace stared at her. That's not possible. It is, she replied. It wants something from you, and it won't leave until it gets it. He didn't want to believe her, but the voice in his head. It had started again, soft whispers, like many voices speaking at once. He couldn't understand the words, but the tone was clear. It was not asking, it was commanding. Lyra walked ahead, guiding him toward her outpost. A small dome hidden behind. Jagged cliffs, the wind grew louder, almost screaming. Jace felt it in his bones. Like something out there was watching him, hunting him. When they reached the door, Lyra placed her hand on a glowing pad. The door slid open with a hiss, and they stepped inside. The outpost was quiet and empty, full of strange alien tech and tools. She motioned for Jace to sit, then scanned his body with a thin blue beam. Her hands trembled slightly. It's already bonded with your nervous system, she said. I can't remove it. Not without killing you. Jace looked down, eyes wide. So what do I do? Lyra didn't answer right away. She turned to a wall and tapped a few buttons. A screen lit up showing old records, ancient data logs with flickering videos. One showed a man covered in the same armor, screaming as he tore through metal walls. Another showed a city burning, with the armored figure walking through flames untouched. Then came the last video. The man looked directly at the camera. Armor fully glowing, his eyes bright like stars. They thought I was the weapon. The man said in a calm voice, "But I am the warning." Then the screen went black. Lyra turned toward Jace. "This armor doesn't protect people," she said. "It destroys everything. Maybe not at first, but slowly it takes control." Jace stood up fast. "I'm not going to let it control me." "It's not your choice," she replied. "It feeds on emotion, rage, fear. If you lose control, it grows stronger." Suddenly the room shook. A low rumble echoed from beneath the ground. Dust fell from the ceiling, lights flickered. Jace's armor lit up on its own, reacting before he even moved. His eyes widened. "I didn't do that," he whispered. Lyra grabbed a device from the table. "A pulse emitter. Something is coming," she said. "And it's coming because of you." They rushed outside. The sky now red and swirling. In the distance, something massive moved across the land, not walking, floating, a shadow with no shape. Surrounded by lightning, the armor tightened on Jace's body, as if preparing for a fight. The whisper in his mind grew louder, now a chant. He could almost understand it. And deep inside, something in him wanted to answer back. Lyra turned to him with fear in her voice. "That's a harbinger," she said. "It senses the armor." Jace clenched his fists, then let it come. But what neither of them knew was that the armor had not just awakened. It had sent a signal across the stars to others, and something had answered. The ground was no longer still. It pulsed like a beating heart hidden deep under the moon's surface. Jace could feel it in his feet, in his chest, in his head. The armor responded too, glowing brighter, tighter, hotter. Lyra stepped back as the harbinger came closer. Its shape shifted like black smoke in the sky, lightning dancing through it like veins. Jace's breathing slowed. He wasn't calm, but something inside him was. The armor was guiding him, moving his arms, readying his legs. He felt stronger, sharper, more alive than ever before. But it wasn't him, not fully. Lyra held up the pulse emitter. "We can't fight that," she shouted. "We run now." But the armor didn't let Jace move. It held his legs firm like roots in the ground. "I can't," he said. "It won't let me." The harbinger dropped lower, its voice echoing through the air like a broken machine. Words that weren't words filled their ears. Lyra covered her head and dropped to the ground, screaming. Jace stood still. The noise stabbed through his skull. But the armor shielded his mind. It was speaking back. A beam of dark energy blasted from the Harbinger and struck the ground, throwing rocks into the sky. A second beam came, but the armor reacted. A blue shield burst from Jace's chest, blocking the hit. He didn't know how it happened. He hadn't done anything. Then something worse happened. His fingers moved on their own. The armor lifted his right hand and pointed it toward the sky. A flash of light exploded from his palm and hit the Harbinger in the center. The creature screamed, a horrible twisting sound. It vanished like smoke in the wind. Silence returned, but only for a moment. Jace fell to his knees, the armor dimming again. Lyra rushed to him. "You fought it," she whispered. "You controlled the armor." Jace looked at her, breathing hard. "No," he said. "It used me." They returned to the outpost, quiet and shaken. Lyra locked every door, scanned the area twice, and finally sat down. Jace looked in the mirror. His reflection no longer looked human. His eyes glowed faint blue, and the armor had changed shape, becoming smoother, more natural, like it was becoming part of him. He punched the wall in frustration. "I didn't want this," he said. "I told you not to touch it," Lyra said softly. "I thought I could handle it." "No one can," she replied. "But maybe. It chose you for a reason." Jace turned. "A reason?" She nodded slowly. "The Ashari armor never wakes without a purpose," she said. "There's a legend." She pulled out an old digital tablet, covered in dust. On it was a drawing, old and faded. A figure in armor, standing at the edge of a burning world. Above him floated shadows like the Harbinger, but beside him stood a woman. Jace stared at it. "Who is she?" Lyra swallowed. "I think she's me." Outside, the wind howled again. Another signal echoed through the sky. Far across the stars, something ancient stirred from its slumber. Jace didn't know it yet, but the armor inside him was only one piece of a forgotten war, and the enemy had just received its warning. He woke up screaming, but it wasn't his voice. It was deeper, louder, not human. Jace sat up, heart racing, breath shaking, sweat running down his face even though the armor kept his body cool. Lyra rushed in, eyes wide, holding a scanner. "It's happening faster," she whispered. "The armor is syncing with your brain while you sleep." Jace grabbed his head. "I saw things," he said. "Worlds burning, shadows moving through fire, and something watching me." Lyra nodded slowly. "The armor remembers," she said. "And now you do too." Jace stood, legs heavy like they didn't belong to him anymore. He walked to the window and looked at the sky. It had turned darker again. Red clouds spinning above the cliffs. "Something's coming," he said. "And I think I'm the reason it's coming faster." Lyra picked up a case from the table. Inside were old maps, alien notes, and a tiny glowing cube. She placed the cube on the table and tapped it. A small 3D map appeared, showing a hidden temple far to the north, buried deep in ice. "There might be answers there," she said. "The temple was built by the last Ashari before they vanished." Jace nodded. "I don't want to be a weapon," he said. "Then we better find out what you really are," she answered. They left the outpost by night, using an old hover skiff powered by silent cells. The wind screamed over the rocks, but no sound came from their vehicle. Jace stayed quiet, staring at the stars. The armor pulsed slowly, like it was breathing with him, or for him, sometimes. He forgot where he ended, and it began. Hours passed, and cold mist filled the air as they reached the icy wastelands. Snow crunched under their boots as they walked toward the frozen ridge. But before they reached the temple, Jace froze, his body locked, eyes glowing bright. "What is it?" Lyra asked. Jace didn't speak. He turned around slowly, like something behind them had called him. Then a voice echoed from the sky, not words but deep, painful pressure in the chest. A second harbinger dropped from the clouds. This one had arms, claws made of black light, and a face that looked like melted metal. Lyra aimed her pulse emitter, but Jace held out his hand. "No," he said. "Let me try." The armor moved fast, snapping around his arms and legs sharp blue lines. Running across his body, he stepped forward, each foot pressing deep into the snow. The Harbinger raised a claw and swung it down. Jace blocked it with both hands, energy sparking around him. He didn't fall, he pushed back, and for the first time, the armor spoke not in his mind, but through his mouth. A single alien word, loud and deep. The Harbinger stopped, then let out a scream and exploded into smoke. Jace fell to his knees, shaking. His lips still moved. Repeating the word without meaning, Lyra dropped beside him. "What did you say?" she asked. Jace looked at her, his eyes still glowing. "I don't know," he whispered, "but I think the armor does." They reached the temple just before dawn. A massive black door stood buried in ice, covered in symbols. The armor on Jace's body began to glow brighter. One of the symbols matched his chest. Without a word, the door slid open, revealing darkness inside. Not just shadows, but something older, waiting. Jace stepped forward. "Whatever's in there," he said. "Knows me." Lyra hesitated, then followed. Because whether he was the key or the curse, she wasn't going to let him face it alone. Behind them, in the rising red sky, 3 more signals blinked into life. The war hadn't started yet, but the pieces were moving, and Jace was no longer just a man. The darkness inside the temple was alive. It wasn't just shadows. There was weight to it. Like being underwater, Jace felt it pressing against his skin. Even through the armor, each step echoed forever, swallowed by silence. Lyra stayed close, her eyes scanning every wall, every strange symbol carved into stone. They both knew this place wasn't built for humans or anything that still lived. Jace stopped suddenly. He raised his hand, and the armor glowed again, brighter than before. The glow touched the carvings, and something answered. The walls began to hum, low and deep, like the growl of a sleeping beast. "Why is it reacting?" Lyra asked, her voice barely a whisper. "I think it knows I'm here," Jace said, "and it's not surprised." Further in, the hallway opened into a round chamber. In the center floated a metal sphere, covered in dust. It spun slowly, pulsing. With faint red light, Jace stepped closer, and the whispers in his mind grew louder. The armor vibrated like it was excited or afraid. Lyra pulled a scanner from her belt, but the screen went dark. "Something's blocking tech," she muttered. "I don't think we need it," Jace said, eyes fixed on the sphere without thinking. He reached out. The moment his hand touched it, the entire chamber lit up. Flashes of memory hit him, battles, stars exploding, soldiers covered in armor like his, and at the center of it all, a voice, calm and cold. "You are not the first," it said, "but you may be the last." The sphere rose higher, and the light inside it poured out like liquid fire. Jace stumbled back, breathing fast. He saw a name inside his mind, Auron the First Host, and a warning left behind in the armor's deepest. "Code, the armor chooses a host to survive," the voice continued. "But once bonded, the host must choose become the shield or the sword." Jace fell to his knees, the words echoing in his bones. He understood now this wasn't about power, it was about control. The armor didn't just protect. It remembered pain, war, betrayal, and it wanted revenge. Lyra helped him stand. "What happened?" she asked. Jace looked at her, eyes glowing silver now. "I saw everything," he said. "The war that ended the Ashari, the hosts who came before me, all of them used by the armor and broken." They turned to leave the chamber, but the temple wasn't done. The floor cracked behind them, and something rose from the shadows. It looked like Jace, but older, darker. Its armor twisted and glowing red. It smiled without joy. "Another one," it said. Still pretending to be the hero, Jace stepped back. "Who are you?" The figure raised a hand. "I'm what you become if you fail." It moved fast, a blur of rage and power. Jace blocked the first strike. But the second knocked him across the room. Lyra screamed and fired her pulse emitter, but the clone didn't. Flinch, Jay stood again, blood on his lip, armor flickering. He focused. Tried to control the armor, not let it control him. It answered, forming blades along his arms, light pulsing from his chest. Their fight lit the ancient walls with bursts of blue and red. Every hit shook the temple, dust falling like rain. Finally, Jace found an opening and struck hard. The dark figure shattered into smoke, whispering one last word. Soon, the room fell silent again. Jace dropped to one knee, exhausted. Lyra ran to him, holding his shoulders. "You won," she said. "No," he replied. "I saw the truth." Outside the temple, the red sky began to break open. Something was coming, not just the collectors, not just harbingers, but something older than war. Older than the armor itself, and it had been waiting for Jace to wake up. They marched like a memory returning to life. The red-armored soldiers didn't speak, didn't blink, didn't even breathe. Their glowing eyes stayed locked on Jay, as if they knew him, not just now but from long ago. He stepped forward slowly, the wind pushing against him. Clara grabbed his arm, her voice shaking. "What are you doing?" Jay's eyes didn't leave the approaching army. "They're not here to fight," he said quietly. "They're here to kneel." The moment he said it, the lead figure raised its arm. Every soldier dropped to one knee, as if pulled by invisible strings. Clara stared in disbelief. They obey you." Jay didn't answer, because deep inside, something else was speaking through him. Not in words, but in purpose. He walked closer, and the leader of the group looked up slowly. It removed its helmet, revealing a scarred face, covered in veins of red light. The voice it used was both male and female, ancient and broken. "We have waited for you, First Warlord," it said. Jay's heart raced, but the armor kept his body calm. "I'm not him," Jay said, trying to fight the growing pressure in his chest, but the soldier didn't blink. "You wear his skin," it said. "His mind lives inside you. The rebirth is complete." Clara pulled him back, her hand trembling. "This is what the armor wanted all along," she whispered, "to bring back the First Warlord." Jay shook his head. "No, I won't let that happen." But the armor wrapped tighter around his chest, as if challenging him. Suddenly, the sky cracked with light. A ship descended from orbit, massive and silent, shaped like a blade. It hovered above the valley, and then a beam of light struck the ground. Jay stepped into it, unable to stop himself. The red soldiers followed, marching behind him like they belonged to him. Inside the ship, the walls were covered in old markings, glowing softly as Jay passed. He recognized the symbols without knowing how. He read them, and the meaning filled his head. They weren't just words, they were memories, orders from wars long gone, names of planets destroyed, oaths of loyalty, sealed in blood. Clara ran beside him, trying to wake him. "Jay, listen to me," she said. "You have to fight it." "I am," he replied, "but I think I'm also remembering." At the end of the hall stood a chamber, round and dark. In the center, a throne floated above the floor, built from ancient metal and flickering energy. Jay didn't want to sit, but his body kept moving. The armor guided him like a hand from the past. As he stepped toward the throne, red light wrapped around his arms and pulled him forward. He resisted, but the armor fought back, tightening around his chest, pressing against his heart. Clara screamed his name, but the sound felt far away. The throne opened, and his body dropped into it. In that moment, everything stopped. Jay's mind split into two, one part screaming, the other calm and old. He saw stars again, fleets of ships kneeling in space. He felt power, more than he had ever imagined, and the voice. The warlord's voice. It whispered, "Let go, and we will rise again." But something inside Jay refused. A single memory held him back. A moment of peace when he helped a child on Earth find her lost toy. It didn't make sense, but it was real. That was who he was. He grabbed the sides of the throne and screamed. The armor cracked, light pouring from the seams. "No!" He shouted, "You're not me!" The room exploded with energy, blasting the red soldiers back. Clara fell to the floor as the ship shook violently. The armor on Jay's body peeled back in pieces, torn between two wills. His human heart pounded like a war drum, louder than the whispers in his head, and then silence. Jay stood slowly, breathing hard. His body smoking. The throne was empty, and the warlord's voice had vanished. Clara looked up at him with wide eyes. "You broke the link," she said. Jay nodded, his face pale. "But it's not over," he said quietly. "They'll come again, stronger." Outside the ship, across the stars, something massive stirred. And for the first time in centuries, the true enemy of the armor, its maker, opened its eyes. He stood alone at the edge of the broken world. Ash fell like snow, silent and endless. The sky above was cracked with thin veins of orange lightning. The ship behind him had gone dark. Its power drained after the last surge. Clara lay unconscious. Near the entrance, her breathing shallow but steady, Jay didn't move. Not even as the ground shook beneath his feet. He had felt it coming for hours. Something older than the armor, older than war. Something that once built the armor and then vanished into silence. Now it was waking. Jay's armor had stopped speaking. No whispers, no commands, no memories, just silence. It was afraid he didn't know how he knew that, but he felt it in his bones. From the deepest part of the ruined planet, light burst upward, not red, not blue, but something pure, blinding and white. It took the shape of a being, not man, not machine, just light. It hovered above the ground, its voice echoing in Jay's mind like a song with no end. "Why do you resist?" it asked. Jay didn't answer. The thing that spoke was not angry, not cruel, but it was not kind either. It had created the armor to control, to judge, to rewrite life where it found weakness, and Jay had broken its perfect tool. The light moved closer. "You were chosen to wear the final shell," it said, "to bring balance through fear, order through fire." Jay stepped forward slowly, his armor flickering but still clinging to his body. "I'm not your tool," he said. "You were," the light replied calmly. "But now, you are something else." It extended a hand of light. Jay felt his heart slow, his breath catch. In that moment, the thing was offering a choice: to return control, surrender, and become a perfect part of its design, or to defy it and be erased. He looked back at Clara, still alive, still trusting him. He looked down at his hands, scarred and trembling. He thought of Earth, of small kindnesses of his old life, and he made his choice. "I'd rather die as myself," he said. The light paused, then a storm of power surged from the sky. Lightning struck, the ground split, and Jay screamed as his armor tore open again. It was burning him, fighting to stay alive inside him. But he didn't back down. He reached into the pain, into the core of the armor. He found the warlord's voice there, weak now, almost gone, and he silenced it with his bare hands. He ripped the last piece of armor from his chest and threw it into the heart of the light. The explosion that followed shook the stars. When the dust settled, Jay lay in the dirt. The light was gone, and the sky was calm. Clara crawled to him, her hands shaking. She pressed her forehead to his, whispering his name again and again. He opened his eyes slowly and smiled just a little. "It's quiet," he said. "No more voices." She cried softly, holding him as the sun finally rose. The war was over. But the story would live forever. They would call him a hero, a breaker of chains, a man who turned down godhood to stay human. But Jay didn't care about any of that. He had survived, and in doing so, he had set the universe free.